Here's the picture. Here's the scenario. You are a leader who is navigating what could be called the perfect storm, a reorganization, new executives, changing and rising expectations, and a leader whose style is, let's say, direct. What's fascinating within those experiences is that the problem isn't the numbers, the workload, the direction. The problem isn't even the direct executive. The problem is the emotional experience that occurs when you're in this environment. It's the emotional experience of being put on the spot repeatedly in ways that will trigger defensiveness, avoidance, and an increase in your own mental narrative of, do I belong here? When you're suddenly surrounded by people who operate at a different pace than you, at a different level of scrutiny, at a different standard, or you're just faced with a skill gap, what happens is you're actually facing an emotional gap. And that emotional gap feels like insecurity, self-doubt, fear of exposure, fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough. So here's where the breakthrough comes. When you're thinking about your emotional intelligence skills and you think about what is necessary, the breakthrough comes in acknowledging that emotional intelligence closes the gap faster than technical knowledge ever will. In this type of situation, what needs to be worked on are a few really critical emotional intelligence skills. And the first one is emotional self-awareness, because the first thing we always need to do is notice. Notice the defensiveness, notice the insecurity, name these things, and own what's true, not the story that fear is telling you or fear is leading you to tell. The second skill is impulse control, because in these types of circumstances, there's a lot of reaction out of the emotional gap. So pausing before reacting, responding with clarity instead of panic, like over-explaining, and saying things that sound like, I know this, I don't know this, I can find the answer for that. The third thing, which is the biggest component of all, is the inner engineering. In situations where you are feeling insecure, where you're self-doubting, when you're put on the defensive, building the internal confidence that isn't dependent on your title and your degree, on someone else's tone, recognizing your own portable equity from real world leadership experiences, strengthening your independence so that scrutiny doesn't feel like a threat to you and your livelihood. That's the shift that needs to immediately be taken. Absolutely, emotional self-awareness and impulse control helps in the moment of how you're communicating. The inner engineering is something that builds longevity and strength beneath you. It also will result in less avoidance and more ownership, more proactive learning, more grounded conversations with senior leaders, and way more trust in your own capability. Because when you regulate your emotions, you're regulating your leadership presence. When you regulate your presence, you're regulating your power. And that has a very different type of tone because it comes from a different space. It's not from a space of insecurity. If you're a new leader and you're navigating new experiences, new executives, new levels of scrutiny, new standards of execution, you have to remember a few things. First, your emotional skills are a differentiator. Second, your technical skills are the amplifier of those emotional intelligence skills. You have to build both, starting with the one that determines how you show up, which is always your emotional intelligence skills.